everyone to tonight's council meeting. I'm the Mayor, Councillor Jasmine Nguyen. I declare this meeting open at 7:06 p.m. It is my utmost pleasure to welcome the members of the public who have joined us tonight. The purpose of the council meeting is to conduct the business of council in an orderly and constructive manner. Members of the public are unfit to this council. In the unlikely event of emergency, please follow the direction of council officers and the emergency procedures on the wall near the door. A recording of the meeting will be published on council's website. Move on to the acknowledgement of country. Please stand for the acknowledgement of country. This meeting, on behalf of Brimbank City Council, I respectfully acknowledge and recognize the Wurundjeri and Bunurong peoples as the traditional custodians of this land and pay respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I ask councillors to remain standing for the council commitment. As a council, we will act in the best interests of the Brimbank community and consider the immediate and long-term impacts of our decisions. We will make these decisions fairly and without bias. We will uphold all of our obligations under the laws of Victoria and Council's local laws, and will act in accordance with our code of conduct. We will sit down. Moving on to items of apologies for leave of absence. There are no apologies for leave of absence for this evening. Any declarations of conflicts of interest? Okay. There are 5 items to be designated as confidential. May I please have a mover of a motion to designate the items as confidential? Councillor Parliament. Is there a second for this motion? Councillor Young? Second. Thank you. Councillor Parliament, did you say this? And Councillor Young? Which split to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries. And can I please have a mover of a motion to confirm the minutes of the previous council meeting? And Paul?
The motion is for business purposes.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Councillor Tarkus? Thank you. Any comments on this motion?
No.
Thank you. Okay. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries. And there are no condolences for this evening. In terms of congratulations, I beg the indulgence of the council. I'd like to move this motion of congratulations. This is for Gwen Deck's family. So Gwen Deck's family for the unveiling of a commemorative plaque for Gwen Deck at the Victorian Trades Hall Council. Do I have a seconder for this motion? Councillor Branton? Thank you. Yeah, just to speak a bit about Gwen Deck, she's actually the second female councillor of Sunshine City Council. And she's been a proud activist and lifelong advocate for women's rights, especially for people in the trade union movement. And we just received news from her son the other day that all her hard work and her efforts are now being commemorated in a plaque at Victorian Trades Hall. So I'd like to say congratulations to Gwen and her family. Yeah, from Sunshine herself, that's quite amazing. And do you want to say second note, Sarah? So, any other comments?
I say something of that, Madam Mayor. Yes, I just like to say that I knew Gwen Gudegi for a long time, the late 60s or mid 60s and onwards. And Gwen, of course, was an activist at his very best. And she work at the time across the road from Civic Centre in Devonshire Road with the former Treasurer of Australia, the late Jim Kearns. She made lots and lots of friends, Madam Mayor, with the new migrants coming in, assisting them in various difficult times. And Adelaide only became a councillor also for the City of Sunshine. And she finished up marrying Councillor Jack Ty at the time, a very good couple. She was living in North Sunshine, which we spent many meetings at her house. She be remembered as an extremely good activist, as I said, a true activist for the good. And I'm sure if she's looking down now, she'd be very proud to see that the Trace Hall Council came up with a good gesture, and she deserves that. And well done to the family. Thank you.
David, are there any other speakers for this motion? I'll now put it to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We're now moving to public question time. I've selected. I understand we have several questions from the members of the public.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have the first question is from Kelvin Bennett. My question is for Mayor Councillor Nguyen. Reported in the Star is council election wish list. Under the list, the declared climate emergency in Brimbank has been relegated to a bronze. Surely an emergency should be raised as a gold plus priority. Would the Mayor care to explain how that rating came about and the reasoning behind this conflicted decision?
Although remain as one of our top 3 priorities, advocacy is only one element of a multi-pronged approach to council addressing climate change. Through the Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan, which was adopted in June 2020, Council has outlined 5 ways Brimbank will tackle this emergency. 1, which is empowering the community. Number 2, shifting to 100% renewable energy. 3, building more resilient infrastructure. 4, greening and cooling the city. And 5, moving towards a low waste circular economy. Brimbank is aiming for 0 net emissions for council corporations by 2030 and the Brimbank municipality by 2040. You can see our progress reported on the council website. Just use climate change as a suggestion.
We received a question from Max A. Warlow. Without referring to industry standards or financial considerations, can council directly answer the question, yes or no? Will the new St Albans Leisure Centre have gym only, group exercise only, off-peak membership only fees?
To directly answer your question, no. Council will not be offering a gym only, group exercise only, or off-peak membership fee. The fees adopted for the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre are aligned to the membership categories currently on offer at the Sunshine Leisure Centre. The gym only membership was only introduced at the Keilor Downs Public Gym for the duration of the construction of the new Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre. There's no aquatic participation opportunities were available on site during this time.
We received 2 questions from Anton Lisa. First question is, what is the council doing to advocate for community interests regarding the proposed 3rd runway at Melbourne Airport, the health noise impacts of which have been found to have not met World Health Organization standards and will severely impact Brimbank communities?
Thank you. Council is preparing submissions to both the 2022 draft Melbourne Airport Master Plan and preliminary draft major development plan for the 3rd runway, which are currently on exhibition. As part of preparing submissions, Council considered type of advocacy required that reflects the issues. Council has already written to Melbourne Airport, Air Services Australia, the Australian Government Chief Medical Officer, the Victorian Chief Health Officer, the Aviation Noise Ombudsman, and the Federal Government about potential health, noise, and amenity-related concerns. Similar concerns have already been raised with the state government.
Second question is, the Department of Transport Sunshine Master Plan appears to fall well short of Brimbank's own Sunshine Priority Precinct Vision 2050 and shortchanges the community with minor cosmetic changes that do not reflect the needs or the council's own vision. What is the council doing to ensure the Victorian government's plans for Sunshine meet the council's Vision 2050 and take advantage of this once-in-a-century opportunity?
So Council has welcomed the release of the draft Sunshine Station Super Hub Master Plan. The draft plan draws on the vision Brimbank Council established for the Sunshine CBD, which is based on extensive community and stakeholder feedback. We're looking forward to hearing from the Department of Transport how its latest round of community engagement will be used to further develop the 9 ideas outlined in the draft plan. Council will continue to advocate for alignment with our 2050 vision.
We received a question from Jamie Ramsey. Can this council confirm that all councillors have declared the applicable conflicts of interest regarding the awarding of community grants and any perceived conflicts of interest to any groups awarded funds?
In accordance with the Brimbank Community Grants Major Policy, Council determines grant categories in line with Council strategic objectives that emerge in community priorities. The officers are involved in the allocation of grants. The management and assessment of community grants is a responsibility of Council officers. A set of guidelines is developed by the Director of Community Wellbeing in line with grant categories determined by Council. A grants assessment panel is made up of Council officers approved by the Director of Community Wellbeing, and they assess the applications against a set of predetermined criteria. All assessors and members of the senior assessment panel sign the conflict of interest report before engaging in the grant assessments.
We received a second question from Jamie Ramsey. Can this council advise that all community grants are being spent as intended and that there are no known issues regarding any grants?
Council monitors and manages funded grant applicants through conducting a progress assessment 6 months into the funding and an acquittal report at the end of the funding period. This report enables Council to support applicants and ensure funded projects are on track as assessed. The acquittal report outlines the funded project outcomes and provides a detailed budget that accounts for how the allocated funds were spent. Approved funds must be used according to the approved budget and any conditions outlined in the funding agreement. Evidence of delivery and proof of expenditures are required to be submitted as part of the acquittal report.
We received 2 questions from Lynn Tran. The first question is, at the Let's Talk Brimbank forum held on the 3rd of April 2022, I was advised that Brimbank Council has a cap on multi-double-storey dwellings permit. Please advise of the cap number and how many have been issued to date in the Keilor Lodge area.
There is no cap on the number of multi-dwelling developments or multi-story dwellings that can be built in any given area of Brimbank. Every application is assessed on its merits against the Brimbank planning scheme in accordance with the requirements of the Planning and Environment Act 1987.
Second question from Lynn Tran, and our final question this evening. It is my understanding that a restricted covenant of no multiple dwellings on a single block of land was imposed on the land title in the Keilor Lodge area, but I've been advised the block located at 2 to 4 Truro was the exception. Please clarify why the covenant rulings wasn't applied to that block.
So covenants are placed on the title by the developer of the land at the time of subdivision. The site at 24 Truro Crescent does not have a covenant on title. Council is unaware why the original developer chose not to include a covenant on this title. And now move on to the next segment. There are 2 petitions to be received. The first petition, 10.1, is the installation of lighting in Cranbrook Street Reserve in Sunshine West. And the petition has 27 signatures. May I please have a mover and motion to receive the petition?
Madam Mayor, I move the petition as per business papers.
Thank you, Councillor Marcus. Is there a second now? That's fair.
I say as per business papers.
Councillor Marcus, would you like to speak? Just move on.
No, thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And Councillor Good?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll now move the motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Yep, that motion carries. And we'll now move on to the second petition. So council has received a petition with 12 signatories objecting to the granting of a planning permit at 2 Truro Crescent in Gila Lodge. May I please have the mover of the motion to receive the petition, councillor Kerr?
Yeah, I move the motion as per business papers.
Thank you. And secretary, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you. I second that. Thank you. Councillor Kerr, do you want to speak to this?
No, thank you.
And thank you. And councillor Rush?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All those in favour, please move your hand up. Motion carries. Thank you. And move on to item 11, which is minutes and reports of delegated committees. May I please have a mover of a motion to read the minutes and delegates report of the League West Joint Delegated Committee meeting held on March 30, 2022.
Madam Mayor, I have a question of clarification on those minutes. Is that possible? Not.
Yeah, you have a question, good, go for it.
To direct to the director. In the minutes, I draw attention that it says that there's an operational budget shortfall for League West of $38,061. I did attend the last meeting, but I had to leave. And there were 2 questions outstanding that I wanted to ask, and I'm happy to take them on notice. Is that why have our fees to League West increased from $50,000 to $80,000 as outlined in the minutes? And also, given that Moonee Valley has also left League West, what are the tangible benefits of our membership for being in League West are the 2 questions.
Thanks to Director Jean-Marc.
Madam Mayor, the main reason for the increase in membership fees is what you referred to as the since Moonee Valley have left League West, but League West Court from 6-member councils down to 5. So that's the main reason for the change there. And take the question on notice about the benefits of being part of League West.
Are there any questions? If not, is there a mover for the motion to note the minutes and the delegate report? Councillor Tam. I move the motion that goes in the paper. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can you accept second up? Thank you. Then would you like to speak as mover? No, thank you, Madam. And Councillor Brendan. Anybody else? Administration. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carried. Thank you. And we're now moving on to item 12, which are the officer reports. Now, there are 17 officer reports for consideration by council tonight. Councillor, I wish to advise that in the interest of conducting all of the business on tonight's agenda, I will not be granting extensions for speaking time this evening. If you have any alternate or amended motions this evening, you must draft these motions and provide them to the governance team by email so they may be shared on screen and form part of the meeting. Otherwise, we might have to defer the matter until the motion has been written, allowing the meeting to proceed uninterrupted. Okay, so first officer report, 12.1, draft annual budget for 2022/2023. Can I please ask Mr. Shane Ma to speak to this report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report presents the draft annual budget 2022-23 to Council to endorse for community consultation. If endorsed by Council, the draft annual budget will be available for community feedback for 28 days from the 21st of April through to the 19th of May 2022. The consultation on the budget will involve face-to-face and online sessions where the community can provide feedback on the draft budget and also making information and the draft budget available online on Council's Your Say Brimbank consultation website. The community will have the opportunity to make a written submission and can request to be heard in support of their submission by a hearing the submissions committee. It is proposed that the draft budget will be presented back to council at the June council meeting before it's submitted to the minister by the 30th of June 2022 deadline. We will now play a video of the Mayor introducing the budget. Thank you.
Hi everyone! Along with my fellow councillors, I'm proud to present to you Brimbank's draft budget for 2022-2023. The budget is important because it shapes the finances and delivery of services and priorities for our community. It underpins our recovery efforts through COVID-19, all while delivering much needed services and programs across our community. We've consulted extensively with our community over the last year on a wide range of topics, including the council plan and vision for our city. And we've taken this feedback into account in the draft budget. Our top priorities for the year ahead are shaped by our council plan and includes improving parks, roads and sporting facilities, implementing the Brimbank Climate Emergency Plan, supporting our community with a number of mental health and wellbeing initiatives, and business support initiatives that promote economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. Now we want to know if we got it right. Have we missed anything? Let's start by looking at a few key figures. Our total budget for 2022-2023 is $286.8 million with a total operating expenditure of $225.4 million. We're proposing to spend $61.4 million on capital works projects. Here's a breakdown of our investment in capital works. $5.6 million for playgrounds, parks, gardens, skate parks and dog parks. $27.8 million to improve roads and footpaths, including road rehabilitation and upgrades, footpath maintenance and new shared user paths. $11 million for sports facility upgrades, including improvements to sports grounds, pitches, tennis courts, pavilions, ovals, lighting and car parks. $1.2 million to upgrade town centres, $380,000 for sustainability projects, as well as $1.78 million for community facilities, including upgrades for our community halls, kindergartens, and community centres. Now let's look at some of the key projects that we'll deliver for the community. One of the biggest projects we're finalising is the new Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre. This once-in-a-generation project has been a long time in the making and will open its doors to the community later this year. Other projects include $1.45 million to upgrade suburban parks at Noble Court in Sunshine West, Odessa Reserve in Keilor Downs, and St Andrews Park in Deer Park. $2.5 million to upgrade the Green Gully Reserve Oval, including the car park, sports ground lighting, and sports change rooms. A $2.25 million soccer and cricket pavilion at Lloyd Reserve in Sunshine, a tennis pavilion upgrade of $750,000 at Lionheart Reserve in Taylors Lakes, and $950,000 for several female sports facility upgrades. The draft budget also includes spending that supports our environment, community well-being, COVID recovery, and mental health. Now this is where you come in. Tell us what you think of the draft budget so together we can achieve a beautiful, thriving, and healthy Brimbank. It's easy to provide feedback. Visit yoursay.brimbank.vic.gov.au or call council on 9249 4000. The consultation closes on Thursday, 19 May 2022, so make sure to have your say. Thank you.
It's easy to have you say. Figure that was the video. So for those of you who are watching at home, the budget video is available as a link on our website under the Zoom link for this council meeting. We'll ensure that this video is also added to the recording of this meeting as well. So can I please have a mover of the motion, Madam Mayor?
I'd like to move an alternate motion.
Oh, sorry, can we say, is there questions for this report?
Yes, I have that question.
Okay,
Just to the directors, listening to really doing capital works for the budgets, assessments, guideline. Can you just briefly give us an indication how the these projects are being critiqued and prioritise, is there a guideline, a assessment list you go by picking each project? Right, thank you, Councillor, for the question. So the draft capital works budget each year is provided basically based on a whole range of council strategies, depending on which particular asset class. So if it's a sports facility, be the sports facility development plan. If it's a community facility, be the community service implementation plan, as well as those key strategies. Across all of those asset classes, there also is a number of additional assessments that are undertaken on a triannual basis, and also maintenance and response inspections, which then determine what the priorities are for a number of the different budgets within the capital works program. So that is prepared essentially on a rolling basis. So we have a 10-year rolling program, because often projects will go over a number of years. 1 year might need some funding for design work and investigations, which then, subject to council adoption, would then proceed to construction over perhaps year 2 and 3 of that cycle. So a 10-year program is prepared, and on an annual basis, it is presented to council as part of the draft annual budget process for consideration for endorsement, subject to the community consultation process. Will come back to council, and then the officers will obviously implement that once adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
All right, any other questions for this report? Okay, so is there a mover or a motion?
Madam Mayor, I move an alternate motion, as per business table on the screen, on the shared screen.
Director?
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'm not going to read that out, but I'd like to firstly congratulate you and all the directors for the budget. It's completely the focus on our community with sports facilities and also park upgrades and mental health have been key priorities. So I'd like to congratulate you. The only thing I've added is under point A, that A, the kitchen upgrade program at Kilwell Sports Club be brought forward and included into the budget, and B, that the strategic property portfolio review be deferred to 2/23/24. And the rest remains the same as per the officer recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marcos. Is there a second for this motion? Councillor Bali.
I second this motion.
Thank you.
Since the council has raised a topic which is not in the budget draft, I'd like to ask a question to the director, please.
Yeah, do you have the question, yes? So,
In point A there, the upgrade of Kilwell Sports Club, I was wondering, was that recommended by officers in the budget, and why was it not recommended by officers in the budget versus upgrading?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This item was not part of the current capital works program for this year. So that particular kitchen upgrade is recommended in a future year.
I understand when you officers indicated in assessing and prioritising capital works and upgrades, there is, understand there's an assessment criteria list, and I want to know, is that prioritised, and what if it's not prioritised, where on the list is, because at the moment it's being pushed up the list according to this motion. Yes, and that's why I wondered why it was not prioritised, and why it's not being. Let me rephrase the question, Madam Mayor. I just want to ask the directors, since it's not on the recommended by officers, I just want to know, with all this assessment, why was it not recommended? And where about on the list in the future down the track is it recommended by officers to be for the improvement of our upgrade?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this particular kitchen upgrade at the Cure Sports ground in Sports Club is actually fifth on the priority list. And so it is not the current priority for the 22-23. That answers the question.
Just want to know whereabouts in Florida this is, and mine is in.
It's priority 5.
Oh,
Priority 5.
That's more forward. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? I can see a question from, okay, just, I mean, Councillor David has his hand, no, Councillor David, did you have a question? David, we can't hear you. Can you all hear Councillor David, everyone? Councillor David, we can't hear you. Did you want to? Please, give Councillor David a call. While that happens, is there any other council questions? Councillor Martin?
Yeah, I would like to know about the strategic property portfolio review. I'd like to know what that is and sort of what area that sits in.
Director, can answer that question, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm happy to provide a response. So the concept of a strategic property assessment came out of obviously a process of discussions with councillors and the development of the council plan, and looking at essentially all of council's properties and facilities, and undertaking a review over the next 12 months, which would enable the council to look at opportunities in the future for potentially whether those facilities are still fit for purpose, whether those facilities are still required for service delivery. It essentially is a strategic piece of work that would set up council for future understanding of its property holdings across a whole range. And so while initially I would probably head that up, it would be across the whole of the council to look at all of those particulars. Thank you.
Follow-up question. Does that mean it would be from a different budget than the than sports upgrades?
So my understanding is the Kilor Sports kitchen upgrade would be required from capital works element of council. The strategic property assessment would be undertaken through the operating budget. Essentially, just need to be, if this was endorsed and adopted by council, this would need to be transferred between operating capital budgets. And of course, would mean that piece of work would not be done. Thank you.
Email? Yes, I've got my.
David, we can hear you now.
That's the chart, isn't it? Where is the chart? Is that what it is?
Maybe mute
Oh.
now. Yeah, no.
Oh, really?
David, we can hear you now. Great. Councillor David, did you have a question, sorry?
Madam Mayor, earlier I missed the question because I couldn't hear you somehow. My reception is not the best. I was asking if that money is available for the Kilo Sports Club. If not, what that means? We have to take money out of the budget to do that? And why is that? That was my question.
From the Councillor David's question, the proposal, the motion presented by Council is to defer the project on strategic property portfolio review, so that project won't happen, and include the Killer Sports Club into the budget. So one project would come out and another one would go in.
Did that for good?
Thank you.
Okay, any more questions before we? Okay, so if there are more questions, as the mover, councillor Fox, would you like to speak to your motion?
Madam Mayor. Just wanted to say that from the outset, I'm not acting on behalf of my ward. This is not a ward-based change that I've asked for. I was equally supportive of Albion Football Club when they wanted to upgrade their kitchen. I believe kitchens are the foundation of every sports club and the purpose, not the purpose, but one of the fundamental key issues that create revenue when they are solely grassroots clubs. Now, the situation at Keilor Football Club, and this has not been something of a whim by myself to do this, this has been an ongoing dialogue for nearly 2 years, that this club now longer has a not fit for purpose kitchen and toilets. They are not just accommodating for over 2,000 users a week, which are sports users. They are also accommodating for life activities, of which we know there's an elderly component in Keilor. Over 250 people are based at the Keilor Sports Club using that facility with toilets that do not accommodate people with disabilities, kitchen that I could only describe as not fit for purpose. So this club is growing every single year, and it needs a kitchen that will accommodate it, because once it does have that kitchen, it will be able to generate more income. It will also be safer for more of those diverse users to be using it. So it's not just a sports specific upgrade that I'm asking for. It accommodates, it's more of a community hub, if I could use the word, because it's used by the Life Activities Club 2 to 3 times a week for everything from choir to walking groups to engagement. So I'm not doing this on a ward basis. I'm doing it because this is the need. Post-pandemic has grown and amplified, and we've had an ongoing dialogue with the director and with my fellow councillor colleague, Councillor Papali, with this club for months. And we believe that this needs to be prioritised, and I hope that my councillor colleagues can support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Takos. Councillor Polly, would you like to speak a second now?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Takos. Just to echo what Councillor Takos has said there, this club is growing at a rapid rate, and they're outgrowing the facilities that are available to them. And I just wanted to make one thing clear, that the motion that Councillor Takos is moving is not to push back any other sporting facility from not receiving a kitchen upgrade or missing out on anything. This is purely to add this kitchen, and it's only because of the rate that this club is growing at. And I don't know if you've seen the kitchens or facilities there, but I think after 1986, they do need work, and it is the sole income of this club. So thank you. That's all I have to add.
Thank you. Are there any councillors who like to speak this motion against, or okay, councillor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to speak against it and give you the reason why. We have a process in relation to assessing the need to prioritise certain facility for capital work, and that's been trusted upon the officers and expertise with a guideline assessment. Now we'll come to recommendations, and we will rely on that to give equalities throughout the whole city, not just one ward or another, but give balance of equalities throughout the whole municipality, where every sports facilities, whether it's community hubs, churches, or whatever it is structured as it is, based on the assessment. And we rely on their guidance and expertise to take and recommend and prioritise certain jobs to be done. That goes on and on. So that's the reason why I'm totally against this. On the 11th hour, you cannot pick one or the other and jump the queue. But I understand, and I've totally emphasised with Councillor Carpus and Councillor Clary in relation to the need of that facility. But there are also hundreds of other facilities in Brimbank, and also a lot of other sports clubs who are in the same situation, and we cannot pick and choose everyone if we have a process. I know, I can't speak for other councils prior to this one. I know this council was day on start day one, we just talk about equalities and equal distribution between municipalities, and that's what we've been aiming for this whole 2 years. And I am totally against a win on 11 hour, which put someone else above another. And that is not right. And this, trying to finalise this stuff is one sports club is not more deserved than another. It will be based on a true, accurate assessment, which we apply on the Holstons doing all their work. So I just hope the council understands. I'm not against upgrading this. There are projects that are applied. There's no doubt they'll be followed in the next budget. So for all of you, thank you, mate. So there's no development community, Killed Football Club. Be sure if it's on Friday 5, it'll probably be the next budget. So we just don't want to start, but we start pushing people up the queue just because they say they need it. We're not in the situation where we can do the assessment ourselves. So that's where we rely on expertise of the officers and staff to do their job. And this is the last time, I hope this way everything will happen in this council. We are talking about equalities and well distribution of all the capital work throughout our term being motivated.
Councillor, but any other councillor to speak to this motion? Councillor Brandon.
I just want to say that my concern is about moving budget from one area to another. That I understand the reasons for trying to get this one done sooner. But I'm comfortable with holding off on, they're basically investing for years and years down the track. The sooner we do that, the better, because it's property and it's volatile. Yeah, that's my concern about moving budgets across areas like that.
Thank you, Councillor Brenton. Any other councillors? Okay, I'll now put the motion to vote. So it was the alternate motion on the shared screen, please. All those in favour, please raise your hand. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then all those against, please raise your hand. Okay, just give me a second. All right, so we'll cover division now. So all those in favour, please raise your hand. Each of your names. Councillor Michelle, Councillor Alia, Councillor Rotich, Councillor Kennedy, and Councillor Thomas. All those against, please raise your hand. So we've got Councillor Borg, Councillor Liu, Councillor Tang, Councillor David, Councillor Brenton, and Councillor Nguyen. So that motion does not pass, but we'll now need another, is there a bid for another motion? Councillor Liu.
Madam Mayor, I'll move that the officer recommendation on the share screen.
It's on the shared screen. Any other senators? Councillor Michelle.
Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Michelle to speak in the motion.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'll just be very brief. I just want to say congratulations to the officers who provide this budget. I understand it's been a very hard 2 years and it's not easy after coming through COVID, and we have to minimise and prioritise all the capital work, all the service for this budget. At the same time, providing all the services and accurate facilities improvement, upgrade, and to make it continue the operation of the municipality. My final words, like I say, with this budget, we have actually covered a good range throughout from north to south of the municipality, all the works. And it's really great again, congratulations to the staff for doing that work. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Councillor Mitchell, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, look, I would like to endorse the words of Councillor Trump and say that certainly there has been a lot of work put in by the council officers, and I know the work we've had to put into this budget as councillors has been significant, but behind the scenes, an enormous amount of work has been put into it. And these are difficult times. We've had rate capping for several years now. It gets every year harder to form a budget for council. So this is getting tighter and tighter for us to do it.
Councillor Mitchell, you want to comment something?
Thank you. And to say that, as you mentioned in your video, Madam Mayor, it is really important for the public to have a good look at this budget and certainly get back to council with any comments on things we might have missed or changes needed. But certainly, I would encourage all members of the public to have a good look at the budget and make their submissions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any other statements for this person? Voting clerk, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And the motion carries. Now we move on to the second officer report. This is the planning activity update and delegate decisions and planning scheme management for March 2022. Mr. Wolf, would you like to speak to your report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present to Council the status of planning permit applications and trends in planning approvals in the city made under delegated authority in March, and the status of current planning scheme amendments. Officers recommend that Council notes both the planning activity and the planning scheme amendment update shown at attachments 1 and 3. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any questions for the director? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, a question to the director relating to Amendment C to 12, former Sunshine Landfill. I understand this amendment has been sitting with the minister now for over a year. It has been followed up by our departmental staff on why this should be such an important amendment that we put so much work into. Has been just sitting there for a year. Is there any feedback from the department as to why this should be delayed, given that it has legal significance?
Through Madam Mayor, in response, just for clarification, the previous advice was that it's sitting with the department. We're unaware of where in the department it is actually sitting. As Council will recall, last month we wrote under the Mayor's signature seeking for resolution of the matter. As recent as last week, I made inquiries of the department. We've not received any understanding of the reason why this amendment has not been brought to conclusion. We will continue to follow up for Council, of course.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any other questions? Is there a view of the motion? Councillor Mitchell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a second one? Councillor Borg.
I second it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Weaver, Councillor, did you want to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And very briefly, just it is noted that the cost of development of new applications between March 21 and March this year has gone from 28 million to 45.8 million. We certainly hope that's a sign that we are economically pulling out of COVID. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak to this motion? Here. Okay, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Next report, 12.3, planning compliance activity update from the 1st of January to the 31st of March 2022. Mr. Walsh, would you like to speak to the report?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you again. This is a quarterly report that comes to council to provide you with an understanding of the planning compliance activity for the period. Officers recommend that council notes the activity as detailed in the report for the period. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Walsh? No questions. In favor of the motion, Councillor Lanfear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Lou.
I'll second the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lanfear, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Lou.
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak on this motion? No. I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Now, report 12.4, proposed planning scheme amendment, C 222 Brim, Canley Development. Mr. Walsh, will you please speak to it?
Madam Mayor, the purpose of this report is for council to consider the draft submission to the Ministerial Advisory Committee that is looking into the amendment C 222 Brim, which is for to facilitate the development at Canley Drive and Glenbrook Avenue in Canley. The officers recommend that council endorse the submission and submit it to the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. Delegates to officers to facilitate, determine the form of the final submission to the Government's Land Standing Advisory Committee at its hearing, undertake a range of other administrative moves to facilitate that submission, and notes also some of the potential implications for council's future budget as detailed in the report, and also to receive a further report on the findings and recommendations of the advisory committee once they were released. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Any questions for the director? Councillor Lanfear.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In terms of the financial contributions or implications, is that likely to impact on this year's budget, or would the development run further than that, further into the future? Sorry. Thank you.
Through Madam Mayor, depending on when the amendment is finalised, it is unlikely to impact on the 21-22 financial year. However, in terms of considering the next year's budget, as I mentioned, it depends on when the development occurs, but as detailed in the report, the tail of the impact, if the amendment is successful, would impact future budgets of the council.
Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? In favor of a motion? Councillor Ball.
I would move to the citizens' papers.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Seconder? Councillor Papas.
I second the motion as Mrs. Saracen.
Councillor Ball, would you like to speak?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Development by the state government is always highly welcome. However, when it comes at an expense to the local government and its community, is very concerning. The proposed development at Canley by Development Victoria is a case in point. It has great potential. However, the current proposal is highly concerning. In this report, Council addresses comprehensively the many serious issues and concerns, their impacts on Council and the community. Such issues include, but not limited to, high density, financial risks to council, environmental impacts, waste management, lack of resources, limited role, role for council, contamination management. Time does not permit to speak to all these concerns. I just want to focus on the proposed housing density issue. Lack of diversity to respond to affordable housing in Brimbank is highly concerning. The amendment endorses 840 dwellings at a density of 30 dwellings per hectare. The dwellings on such micro blocks are likely to be occupied by disadvantaged people. Lack of resources, such as community facilities, open space, and lack of transport will have significant impact on their socio-economic status as well as their well-being. This is also compounded by the fact that such vulnerable.
Let's hold your papers cover your camera. Yeah, just good. You want to continue?
Sorry about that. This is also compounded by the fact that such vulnerable people will be placed within walking distance of a club that has poker machines. This is a recipe for disaster. Development Victoria, which is synonymous with the state government, in the current proposal has ignored the voice of the community and the local government. I call upon the Minister for Planning, the Honourable Richard Wynne, to take notice of the issues raised in this report and in the submissions by the community. The community is sick of the state government looking at the West, more specifically Brimbank, as second-class citizens. I would like to acknowledge the enormous amount of work involved in the preparation of this report. I commend this report to Council.
Councillor Paul, as seconded, Councillor Tarver, would you like to speak?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to also echo Councillor Borg's strong words, as she's been following this and supporting the community for months now on this journey. As the state government has taken over in the most recent amendment to become the planning authority, and that leaves us as a council only as a role to be as a submitter in the process. It's really important to consider that Development Victoria's proposal for infrastructure, open space, roads are not fully funded and are not built to council standards, but are expected to be transferred to council for ownership and future maintenance. This also includes costly drainage systems and ongoing contamination management. None of this is costed in our council budget. Another example of the state's cost shifting, which is totally placing the burden on ratepayers as they walk away with the profits of this development. This is let's be honest, this is an overdevelopment. The intense densification, the lack of trees, the eradication of established trees as well. The removal of the established sugar gums alone and the 2 established grasslands on the site, to which they are endangered legless lizards, place a huge risk to a rare and diminishing biodiversity. This plan is also is not met. It does not meet the tree canopy cover, which the council has set at 30%, and shows that there is nothing more. It's nothing more than a land grab to build high density housing with debatable social services and infrastructure to support it afterwards. It puts tremendous pressure on a community that deserves better. Plus, the cost shifting for the assets that this council has not factored into our budget is not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speakers on this version? Okay.
I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Borg for the words that she's spoken. Never has there been a true amount of words. It's just the same developments happening in Keelan Downs, and We're talking high density houses, you know, no dignity for the residents. There's already a lack of transport, there's a lack of police, these small pokey blocks. I'm just calling on the state government to stop using the West as a stumping ground for everything. The residents deserve better, we deserve better, Brimbank deserves better, and I just hope that the state government is listening to understand that the residents of Carnley are not going to accept this. So thank you.
That's good. Any other speakers for this motion? Councillor Daniel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Ward, and Councillor Tarkos has raised the concerning from the community. So, and I also thank you to the director and all the staff have been working really hard on the submission. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, any other speakers for this motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Now, report 12.5, which is the amendment C 225 Brim exhibition. Brimbank Planning Scheme Review for the planning policy framework, EPF translation. Mr. Walsh, can you please read your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The purpose of this report is for Council to note and consider the submissions received in response to the exhibition of the Planning Scheme Amendment C225 and determine the next steps to progress the amendment in accordance with the requirements of the Planning and Environment Act. Specifically, Amendment C225 replaces the existing municipal strategic statement with the new municipal planning strategy and planning policy framework. We recommend that Council receives notes and considers all submission notes and endorses the summary of submissions and requests the Minister for Planning to appoint a planning panel to consider all submissions. Also to refer all of those submissions to that planning panel. There are a range of other matters there that we ask Council to endorse, delegate and note. And also to write to submitters to thank them for their submissions to the amendment and advise of Council's decision tonight. And also to note that officers that will provide Council with a further report presenting the recommendations of any planning panel in relation to this planning scheme amendment. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Walsh? No questions? So I have a mover of the motion, Councillor Yusha.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Any seconders? Councillor Brenton.
Seconded.
Thank you. Councillor Lancashire, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. This is an extremely important change to our planning scheme. As we understand with planning applications, when there is an objection, it goes to DCAT. What's being said here with planning scheme amendments, if there's submissions, then it goes to panel. That's the difference in the process that's occurring and where we are up to at this point in time. And just to say, when I started in planning schemes were an A5 booklet. They've grown to 2 volumes and now, of course, it's online. But this latest process is massive in terms of its change to the planning scheme. The amount of work that our strategic planners and officers have had to do in processing this major upgrade, which is right across every council in Victoria, is a substantial body of work. So congratulations to the planners, and I certainly appreciate if you could pass that on to all the work that they've done in this major change to try and consolidate, simplify, and make our planning scheme more workable in a very complex environment. So it's worthwhile. It's been a lot of work, and thank you to the officers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Brenton, would you like to speak as seconder? All good. Any other speakers for this motion? I'm going to put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. The motion carries. Officer report 12.6, which is the governance report for April 2022. Mr. Hogan, would you like to present your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The governance report is a standing item within the monthly council meeting agenda. It is predominantly a summary of recent governance and operational activity within compliance with the Local Government Act of 1989 and 2020. This month, the office's recommendation is for the noting of the content and attachments to the report rather than seeking decision for the regional officers. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hogan? Is there a view of our motion? Thank you. Thank you. Is there a second up? Thank you. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak?
No, thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Councillor Palia? Thank you. Any speakers? Oh, yes, Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to highlight the Gender Equality Action Plan 2021-2025, which is also included in this report. The actions taken by Council are well documented. They indicate Council's continuous commitment towards gender equity across the organization. This includes, but not limited to, tracking the gender composition of the leadership group with quarterly reporting to the executive management team, identifying existing women and diverse employees with leadership potential, and deliver tailored leadership development training, and normalizing workplace flexibility. I would like to thank everyone involved in implementing these actions.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Yes. Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Moving on to Office Report 12.7. These are the motions for the 22 Maribor Council. Mr. Hogan, would you like to present your report?
Thank you again, Madam Mayor. Attached to this report is a series of draft motions for Council to consider submitting to the Municipal Association of Victoria the State Council meeting of June 24 this year to continue advancing the Brimbank Council advocacy agenda. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hogan. I must speak as the chair of the Resilient Brimbank portfolio. The Maribor State Council meeting is convened annually, and it provides an opportunity to draw statewide attention to council's advocacy and engagement priorities. The 2022 State Council meeting will be held on Friday, 24 June, and member councils will soon be submitting their motions for consideration. There are 4 motions that Brimbank is proposing to submit that relate to mental health and well-being, the climate emergency, pathways to employment, and local business support. These priorities are all featured in Brimbank's advocacy plan for 2022 and are of statewide significance. Our mental health and well-being motion focuses on asking state governments to formally engage with local governments about the design and implementation of the community collectives proposed by state government to be established and supported by local government by the end of 2022. Under the climate emergency motion, we'll be asking the state government to declare a climate emergency, establish a national renewable energy target of 100% for 2030, declare a price on carbon pollution, and replicate the success of the 20 million trees program to re-establish green corridors, urban forests, and threatened ecological communities. In relation to our pathways to employment motion, we will be calling on the state government to establish a dedicated and ongoing community resilience and fairness response package to ensure our most vulnerable community members are protected from the worst of the impacts of a prolonged pandemic, particularly the youth. We will also be calling for increased funding for local learning and job promotion programs and initiatives designed to reduce unemployment. And finally, we'll be asking the state government to support local business by establishing a dedicated and ongoing COVID-19 economic response package that involves further payroll tax relief, as well as additional business grants and business development programs that support business recovery and growth. As was the case at the 2021 MAD State Council meeting, we are confident that all of Brimbank's motions will be endorsed, and I commend this report to Council. Councillors, is there a mover for this motion? That's all.
I will vote as citizens.
Is there a second for this motion? Councillor Jackman. Thank you, Councillor Wolf, would you like to speak on this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just briefly to say that the motions relate to highly significant issues that relate to the community in Brimbank, but they also have statewide significance. I just want to comment on the motion in relation to the mental health and well-being. The worsening of mental health has been referred to as a silent epidemic, and it seems to be going from bad to worse. Good to see the state government's proposal to design and implement the community collectives. It's important that the local government will be formally engaged in identifying challenges and opportunities, as well as supporting them to determine issues and take action to support the mental health and well-being of their communities. The other motions included in this report are just as important. I want to thank all the staff for preparing this motion. I commend this report to Council.
Thank you. Then let me know, would you like to speak?
Just think of what Councillor Bob just said, and thank you to the staff and
Any other councillors like to speak to this motion? Okay, I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. The next report is 12.8, the St Albans Sport Club Indoor Playground Proposal. Ms. Lily Dumble, would you like to speak to your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The St Albans Sports Club is located on council land in Kings Park Reserve. It provides a range of sporting opportunities to local communities and also operates 35 electronic gaming machines from the site. The club has sought approval to install a permanent indoor children's play area. This report outlines the analysis undertaken to understand the likely impacts of the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dumble. Any questions for Ms. Dumble? Okay, Councillor Parks.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to ask Ms. Dumble, does the club actually currently have an indoor playground?
I understand that they have a temporary non-permanent play fixture within the distro area.
Okay, thank you. It's not a permanent.
I do have a few questions for our director. Going through the email that I received today, and I looked through it briefly, so I was just looking through it now. I am against gambling, and I did really heavily advocate against gambling last year. But looking at here, they do have temporarily playgrounds. They did build their reception, and they wanted to add this playground to reception. So I just want to better understand. Again, I'm just making sure that everyone knows I did advocate against gambling because I am against gambling. But at the same time, I want to better understand that it's going to make easier for those people to make money or make more money for how to survive or for the sports club to survive if they do have reception and if they have that playground next to it if it's gonna turn away people from playing for pokies and gambling, they do have or deliver different gambling activities, alternative, one second, I lost it now. They do follow gambling, oh my god, what is one second. Okay, they do deliver at least 5 non-gambling activities to provide alternative entertainment outside the gambling activities. As I said, a bill perception, is it any other way to help them actually to make more money? Like, is it any other way, or in which way did we, or we do think that this is gonna harm rather than help them?
Thank you, Mayor. So I might just respond to the question about the reception desk from what we've been advised from the club in their report. That is a confidential attachment to this report. The reception desk is being put in place to definitely be able to supervise if they are approval to a playground in the Australia area. It's also there for other reasons to welcome guests and patrons to also comply with their COVID marshal requirements. There are a number of other reasons for the reception desk. To understand the whether the playground will bring income to the club, difficult for us to say. That's certainly the club wanting to be able to get stated that their main reason is to actually, I guess, provide it as more family friendly venue and to be attractive to women as patrons coming to the centre. I can't comment on whether it would actually bring more income. That's, I mean, there's more patronage than that will potentially increase income from both the eligible game share and also the instructor. So.
Thanks for having Councillor.
Thanks, Matt. Just a question for you. Is there any sort of research data evidence that indicate having a child play in a distributable or a facility has impacted to their health or their potential future?
There are 2 particular reports that we've referenced in the council report. There has been contingency they're both academic reports one of them is Gambling in Suburban Australia, which is was led by the Australian Institute of Family Studies. The other report that we've made reference to is Children's Attitudes Towards Gambling Machines, an exploratory qualitative study of children in clubs, which was published in the Harm Reduction Journal. And therefore, that paper. Then the main making our analysis.
We have one more question, which is, it says in the letter that I received that it's a reception area, and you were saying reception bedside, I don't understand. Oh, sorry, area that is just a empty sort of area that they would like to put the playground, or is it actually bistro area that is turned into a reception area? I don't understand that part.
Oh, so there's the playground is in an extension area near the bistro, but the reception I think is being established near the entrance. So oversee the playground, proposed playground as well as being reception of the main entrance.
And one more last question. Is there any other way that they can come across with the playground that is not in that area, or we don't want a playground?
The placement, proposed placement of the playground is probably in the facility the best location because it's the most distant. The officer recommendation not to approve this because we are not recommending that the playground be the playground part of that.
This, which is, do we have any other gambling, or sports club with, machines that we have a playground?
Yes, so on council lane, Green Gully, has a playground.
And do we have more people visiting that because do we have any jump from that?
So question for councillor.
Just one question. Yeah, because I would say there are facilities in Brimbank which has shops including their structural buildings. Is there any legislation or requirement or any I have to say the restriction which state councils take to have those other facilities with childcare, have childcare removed or taken away, according to the research in my part was right.
So in the non-council, there's nothing we can do around playgrounds, that I Irish. They follow the requirements. So there's nothing we can do about removing any indoor playground. That's not going to be.
Let's see if I can learn councillor. The question?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want confirmation on the policy and procedures here. Is that the children must be are not left unattended on the premise. But just to say anything about life, can the parents have to be there with the children, or just the children really look after the staff in the play?
My understanding is the club will make it a requirement that parents have to supervise their children.
So the parents are not going to gamble while the children are there?
They have to have at least one parent that's supervising the children, so or another parent.
Sorry, that's a good point actually, because if you're gonna have two parents, one supervising, one going and possibly gambling, you can have that parent looking after that child at home, same as you would look after it on that playground. So I don't see, it does not sound convincing to me. As I mentioned before, I am against gambling, but I just need to be convinced that this is not good for the certain club. So, as I said, you know, if it's two of us and I'm going to gamble, my husband will stay at home and look after that child. So if I was going to gamble, I would anyways go to gamble and he would regardless look after the child. Doesn't matter if it's a club or it will be at the end. Thank you, Mother May. So what is it that we are against to let him do this? I do understand, I've seen the report and everything, but how did we come to that conclusion?
Yeah, it's a question. The main issue is around children being exposed to gambling behaviors. So if the children are actually present in that site, it normalises the exposure to sporting venues and game venues being sort of in one location. So that's one of the main concerns that having a playground is such a facility.
And I can see on Zoom, Councillor David has his hand up. Councillor David, did you have a question?
Mayor, I hardly can hear the conversation. My reception is not the best, but I do like to speak against the motion or the report.
We're still in question time.
Is that okay now? Because I can hear the conversation, but not as good as I can get it, yeah. So
It's not a question.
can I speak about it now, or you want me to do it after?
Still asking questions, Councillor David, so when we're.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor, is there a question?
Right, thank you, just, when you answer the last normalisation, having kids in the vicinity, how's that with impact lesson to all the other gambling venue where it's a bistro and kids attend with the parents in bistro where there's gambling as well, how's the normalisation to gambling, and we haven't seen that at all.
Same, I'm required to those other things as well.
Just bistro.
So the line of, I guess, thinking around this is that if you have a playground, that you will be attracting more children than if you don't have one. So therefore, potentially will have more children coming into that venue. So what would be its price? A family bistro is also obviously an attraction as well. But it's not designed just for children, obviously, bistro is designed for playgrounds.
Understand playgrounds, child must stay there along with the parents. I'm saying exposure to gambling, I can't see a difference with exposure sitting at a table bistro, exposure when you're around a corner in a playground. It's still exposure to gambling venues. So moving on forward from that, how many other venues, gambling venue in a municipality, is has a bistro in it?
Point of order, Madam Mayor, why go through every single bistro when we are debating quite clearly something that is on council ground? It's not every other bistro.
And all the other bistros are not owned by council.
Exactly, so we have no jurisdiction.
Oh, no, it's a the director raised normalisation of gambling. That's why I raised this question, Madam Mayor. It was not normalisation of the person in the vicinity. When I raised this question, it's normalisation of kids in the bistro. It's no different question. So how many other bistro or gambling venue have a bistro in the municipality? Surely there must be more than a dozen.
Yeah, I hopefully I can answer this to help with this understanding that the many of the gaming venues that are in Brimbank also have things like a bistro or a bar, and most of them will probably allow children into their bistro. So that is not something that we have any control over. This is a council site that we do actually own. And certainly children are coming into that bistro. What we're saying is having a playground actually adds more attractiveness for children to be brought into that site. So it's actually potentially adding compounding toward children being exposed to gambling. Electronic gambling.
Thank you. Is there a mover on the motion for this?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I move to motion.
Order, wait a second, please. Councillor Thomas, do you have?
I move the motion as per business papers, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there
Madam Mayor,
what's your point of order?
Councillor Bruce has raised a determined tax-rating plan before. I raised
That's an invalid point of order because as a chair, I do, if you moving the motion, I can still count it upwards. So we're going to proceed with motion, if that does not fall through, I'll ask for another move on a different motion. So, councillor, did you want to move the?
I move the motion as per business purpose, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second for this motion?
I second that.
Okay. So, councillor, did you have one of order? Or?
Yes, I move an amended motion, Madam Mayor.
Okay, did you want to prepare in writing what the amended motion is?
Yes, if we could have the amended motion up on screen, please.
Well, can you please clarify if your amendment is an amendment to the substantive motion, or as in it's not contrary, or is it an alternative motion?
It's an alternative motion.
So I just like to remind that the process to amend a motion is that it can be moved when the motion's been seconded and moved. But also the amended motion, it must not be negative or substantively contrary to the original motion. So it sounds here that you're putting forward a alternative motion, in which case we would have to listen to the substantive motion. If that substantive motion is not followed through, we can put up the alternative motion, which I hope that makes sense. Okay, so Councillor Thomas, would you like to speak on the motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to draw people's attention to the evidence that is presented in this officer's report. Everything that this council does is predicated on evidence-based. For the last 6-7 years that I've been on council, I've been heavily watching the damage that gambling has been doing to our community. And that damage can't be quantified just in numbers, but in corridors of real disadvantage in our community. And that disadvantage is concentrated across areas where there are high pokies. High exposure to pokies and gaming venues in general normalises gambling. What this council has tried to do is minimise that harm across our community. The only way that we can change is to reverse it. Any kind of exposure that children have to normalising gambling is recorded in their mindsets. And as we know, during the pandemic, many children turned to online gambling, which has been also devastating for our community, and which we are also lobbying by putting notices of motion through MAP and other areas. So this council has consistently supported the strategic support of harm minimisation. In this report, the evidence shows gaming venues with children's play areas reported a 22.6% increase in average of daily losses. That is the evidence in black and white in this officer's report, compared to a 6.5% increase in those without children's play area. Even minimal changes like that impact heavily on our community. The cost of gambling, and people are sitting here saying, I support, harm minimisation and I'm against gambling. Yet I think this might be okay. Think again, because these children can still play. We have got sports clubs. We have got sports clubs within Brimbank that do not have playgrounds where children are able to develop without that influence, and clubs still thrive. And there are classic examples that I've given even earlier today with Keel Sports Club that does not rely on gambling, and children are made to feel welcome in that club. They can have a sit-down meal. There is no need to have these inside playgrounds. In fact, Taylor's Lakes Hotel removed their internal playground because there was an accident. Now, this is on council land. I'd like to just ensure that everything we do is to council standards. So there is already an existing playground, although it's temporary, in this sports club. My concern is that we as adults model behaviour, and whether we say to ourselves, well, it's just a playground, it's fine, I'll just go in and play for half an hour, people lose track of time. Children are left there, and I have been to some of these bistros where children have been left there while parents have gone on.
Yes.
We're talking about St. Albans Sports Club, not the other facilities. What council has observed is not the sports club.
Well, I've only ever been to Green Gully, which has one, and I am not in support of that one either, Madam Mayor. So I do not support anything that is conducive of increasing gambling on our premises and on our council land. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harkos. Would the seconder of the motion like to speak?
That's me.
That
Because I forgot. Look, I just want to congratulate Councillor Tarkos for really articulating the issue well. I guess what I would like to say is that I can't condone a kids' play area with a pokies venue on council land, and I think that's the pivotal point. It's on council land. So that's just what I'd like to reiterate with, with all the gambling effects in Brimbank with one of the lowest socioeconomic backgrounds, we're the second largest losers with pokies in Victoria. So I just can't support, a kids player pokie venue because I'm against it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Councillor Aria.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, this one, it was a really tough one for me. I thought about this woman hard all week. I really did want to support the club and the playground, but what it comes down to is it's against what I stand for. The academic research in this case doesn't lie. The results are right in front of us. We cannot normalise gambling. Our council stands firm against it. And if we are truly against it, then we do need to stand true to the council's decision they're putting in front of us. Just like Sean said before, we've got to use the evidence and recommendations of council, and that's exactly what's being put in front of us. Those reports don't lie. So unfortunately, that's not going to be I am supporting that we're trying to improve the playground. Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, Pete Stewart. I saw that Councillor Ramsey wanted to speak.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I suppose, clarify it. Maybe it sounded like you're assuming that the number of children would stay the same. The problem is about what the kids are doing while they're there. The reason they want the playgrounds, and they say that in their application, I think, is because they want to attract more families. So the actual problem is that more children will be there. It's not that they'll be on the playground or in the bistro. It's that more families will be drawn there because there's the playground. So that's where the exposure is raised, because there's actually going to be more kids than there were if there wasn't a playground. Thank you.
Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This was not a very difficult decision for me to make. I know that the St. Albans Sports Club has a great interest in the welfare of its members and is highly family oriented. I'm quite impressed with the programs they have in place to look after the psychological well-being of its members, including pastoral care. They are also involved in gambling harm reduction programs. The proposed plan for the indoor playground does meet the required regulations. However, when I looked at the literature, I feel quite concerned about having such a playground at this venue. Gaming venues with play areas have recorded larger increases during the recent recorded EGM losses in Brimbank. There is also evidence that building a playground at such venues still has an impact on kids, even though it meets the required criteria. According to Associate Professor Thomas from Deakin University, quote, the separation of kids is not enough to protect them from the gaming floor. There's still exposure. End of quote. In spite of the regulations, parents are more likely to spend more time playing at the pokies. The recommendation of this report aligns with Council's policy. As such, I will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I just noticed on the screen there's 2 hands that are raised in the Zoom meeting. Are these hands raised as a point of order or as a desire to speak on question?
Thank you. For desire to speak on the motion, it wasn't point of order. I have my hand down, but I've decided to put it this way. It's probably makes it easier for everyone.
So Councillor, right, if you want to speak.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Before asking all those questions, I wasn't asking them because I'm going to support, or wasn't asking them because I'm not going to support. I was asking them just to clarify a few things. Because as I said, receiving that letter, I read it before and I read it briefly today, and I couldn't understand that we did have temporarily playground there, but then we don't want to let them have playground. So I wanted to better understand why did we even have temporarily playground there. So we should even start with that. We should even give idea to the club to have that temporarily playground if we're not gonna visit this third day and look into it. I am against gambling, and I'm gonna say it again because some of the colleagues said, you know, we took the against it, but then we're doing this. It was just to better understand pretty much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously very slow on the motion, thank you. Now, just regarding this, I want to say, you know, picture this, it's not, we're not against the motion, mainly because the playground is a business attraction and gambling is, you know, look at a separate side. So I'll go to that further detail, but we are going according to our gambling policies, which minimise harm. And we have advocate and suggest and put forward for all these gambling venues to take on programs to minimise harm. And this club has, throughout municipality, no other club has, to this extent. This club has gone to spend the last 5 years trying to move away with a policy away from gambling. They've tried to do that. That's what they've been doing the last 5 years. As a result, their gambling intake has decreased due to our program, and that they acknowledge that program, they want to move away from that. And you understand, every facility outside there, outside the municipality, rely on income, and believe it or not, or you want to believe it or not, pokie is part of the income. And this club is trying to move away from it, and that's why they accepted our policies, and it's all this program. As a result, they're losing income, and they have found a strategy to subsidise that income by creating a more inclusive family atmosphere. That is, the playground for the kids while the parents are there. Now, I don't know about you, I've got 5 kids. I don't go to the place to gamble. I don't go there because there's just for the kids also to play as well. So I don't go to gamble. So you're assuming every person goes in there to gamble. Everyone's different. That's why I asked this question, how many other facilities are there in Brimbank? If they haven't got a facility there in St Albans, they'll go 2K down the road or 1K down the road, New Park or Cuba, and they'll spend the time there where there's facilities there. So don't think when you are shutting this down and you're wasting the day are applying to moving towards a policy which we've set out, and they're doing that. And at the moment, what we're doing is punishing those who actually abide to what we requested to do. We set out criteria, program for them to do, and they do that. And at the moment, you guys are basically punishing those who accept it. So how are we going to move forward with our policy? If they will take up our policies and abide by it, then you punish them and not by granting them to.
We're not punishing anyone. Well, our community is being punished.
This is
by
the
that.
actual valid point of order. Like that's.
The language punishing, I find very strong, Madam Mayor. How are we punishing?
I don't mean it's capable of saying that to.
Another 20 second Madam Mayor, without interruption. Punishing is those states that their incomes is reliant to operate. In the moment, they relying this facility to stream on income, that's to operate that facility. And moment we're not granting them that. That's what you're punishing. Taking away a person's income. I don't know if you run a business or not. That business relies on income, whether you believe it or not, it does rely on its income. Now they're trying to move away from the gambling part we've done in policy setting. So I don't oppose this, and I hope council can understand why and focus on lesson two. Facilities of business and gaming, so it's two separate things.
That's the way it should be going to speak.
Yes, Madam Mayor, and I would foreshadow that.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I would foreshadow that should this motion not be approved, there'd be an alternate motion. Start. And I'd certainly like to speak against this motion. The St Albans Sports Club is the only electronic gaming venue in Brimbank that has a gambling harm reduction program with council. This club is considered to be best practice in this area and a model for other venues to follow. And I would certainly agree with Councillor Trung that it is most unfair to treat this club in this manner when they have done so much to help in this area. This our harm minimisation program forms part of the club's lease, and they meet with council officers on a regular basis to review and enhance this program, other initiatives as such. They conduct at least 2 additional training courses for staff above the regulated requirements. Bob Wooten from Gamblers Health also provides evidence in this regard. Bob Wooten regularly attends meetings. As I am advised, he rates this venue as the #1 venue in Brimbank for training and their harm minimisation program. This club should not be treated like this, given they're doing such good work. Directors of the club will also receive gaming modules, training modules as part of this program. The club promotes and participates in Gambling Harm Awareness Week. The club promotes and participates in one non-gambling industry-funded academic research program each year. They did participate in a PhD student from Deakin University program targeting young men from 18 to 25 years old at Brooks' request. This year, it will be also recommended that they do another such program. At the request of a council officer, they participated in the production of a short documentary film targeting the harm of pokies in the Sudanese community. They delivered at least 5 non-gambling activities to provide alternative entertainment outside of gaming venues. No one else does this. Over recent months, they have built a reception area to overlook the proposed playground. The gaming machines cannot be viewed from anywhere outside the gaming room. The club have engaged Sports Chaplaincy Australia for any patrons who may like a confidential chat about gambling, mental health issues, or just talk. The proposed playground is to be placed furthermost point from the gaming room. The reason the club would like to playground is that they surveyed their members and there was overwhelming support for the club to proceed with the application. Many of their members, when holding a birthday party or a family get-together, book other venues as they do not have a playground. And that is taking them from a club to a pub, and this policy is all about harm minimisation. This is actually creating more harm.
No.
But you else have to speak to this resident.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think Councillor Lancashire said it. What we are doing, I think we're scaremongering councillors as those kids that are going to turn out to be gamblers. Now, look, Australia is famous in reference to gambling. Outside China, Australia is the second, very close to China in gambling. Australian people that can gamble on 2 flies on the wall, that's the word. Now, these kids, they are there because the mother and father, young marriage couples, they work, both of them work during the week, and they got 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, to go out and have a good lunch somewhere, have their kids in a safe environment type of thing. You got security persons there looking after them. And I can't see the reason why, because the proposed building is too far away from the gaming room for a start. And I can't see why. I know the reason why. It came before us about back in 2017. The VLGA was just came and giving us a lot of talking in Renento about the 2 clubs that we've got. And believe it or not, every year we've got certain councillors that they grandstand about money going away from our city. That's true, but not from these 2 clubs. The money they make, they're staying in our city. They've got people working for us there from our city. The money stay with us. It's a true community clubs. This is what the other the pubs and hotels before the gaming machines came over to Victoria. You can buy them next to nothing. Now they're worth millions. And that's Mr. Kennedy at the time rushed it to sell to the pubs. In every other state in Australia, the clubs got the gaming machines. Before they came to us, every weekend, the senior citizens groups and clubs, they used to fill up the buses, going to Echuca, Moama, Delangwin, and in New South Wales to have a bit of fun, to play the machines and have lunch or a couple of days out. What's wrong with it? And 30 seconds, Madam Mayor. Just to say that this, if you go to these venues, pubs and clubs, you will not see any young people there. That's guarantee. You go there, anybody from your charter, your councillors, go there, you don't see. They are middle-aged people, some of them, the rest of all this. They're very old people, especially women, elderly women. That's the ones that go to these premises, not the children. The children are using this now. That's the mobile phone. That's what they do. And can we stop this? No, I don't think so. We speaking for in a wrong way. Thank you.
David, with Mayor Council to speak, Spurgeon, Council Day.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Then at Council of the Party, I've been thinking of this is so hard. Not a question I want to ask, to attract the family and female, do the children need the playground in the gaming area? So that's the question that I want to ask for the councillor, so we can think about it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Dang. Obviously, that was a rhetorical question. Okay, so has anybody, would I listen to speak? I think you're in a spoken on this motion. Huge debate, yeah, okay. So, okay, as a member motion, Councillor Thomas, you actually have a right of reply.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. It's great listening to all the debate, but fundamentally this council has committed to the minimisation of harm. And we have been the losers of gambling for the last, beyond a decade. It's our community that has suffered. And the social costs of gambling are far and wide. They include crime, they include poverty, they include a whole range of social impacts that this council is faced with mopping up. And poverty includes children of gambling, parents that gamble, come to schools without lunch, without uniforms, without books. We reach out to a lot of kids in those corridors of poverty, and the concurrent issue is gambling. Gambling is the underlying issue that causes also exploitation and so many other issues. So for that reason, we have chosen the path of harm minimisation. I stood for this council because I want this community to thrive and not go backwards. And by thriving, we can achieve all those goals mentioned without gambling. Thank you.
The motion is vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Please again, please raise your hand. All right, so let's do that again. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. So I'm calling for your names. Councillor Borg, Councillor Kerr, Councillor Palia, Councillor Dang, Councillor Targos, Councillor Branton, Councillor Ewan. All those against, please raise your hand. So Councillor Liu, Councillor Lancashire, and Councillor David. That motion carries. That was the name.
Oh.
I call that each of the names. Yeah, okay, so we'll now move on to the next item. This is 12.9, Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre operational update. Ms. Dunn, would you like to speak to your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report provides an update on the planning for the operation of the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre following the completion of construction expected in mid-2022. Further progress updates will be provided as we move towards the opening date. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Dumble? No questions? Is there a mover of the motion? That's Brandon.
I move the motion to Mr. Papers.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Borg?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Brandon, would you like to speak on this report? Councillor Borg, would you like to speak?
Just a few words, Madam Mayor. This report includes the establishment plan, a collective approach, and preparing for opening. It's interesting to note that more than 150 staff members will be required for its operation. The staff will be trained ready for the opening of the facility. It's also important to note that the project has included a strong partnership-focused approach and commitment to delivering measurable social and health outcomes over time. The aim for this facility is to become an example of how to combine social and health outcomes with infrastructure development. Very much looking forward to the grand opening. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any councillors like to speak on this motion as well? No, okay, we'll go to the motion vote. All those please raise your hand. Paper, yep. That motion carries. Then please ask them to move a procedural motion to adjourn the meeting for 5 minutes. Have a break. Once again.
Yes.
Is there a second? Councillor Markich. Let's go to the vote. All those in favour, raise your hand. That motion carries. All right, we'll be back at 9, and thank you. Can I please ask the mover of the motion to resume the council meeting? Councillor Palia.
I make a motion.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Councillor Rutledge. Okay, all those in favour, please raise your hand. The motion carries. We will now resume the meeting. We're back at 9:16 p.m. Now up to 12.10, the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre co-location tenancy. Ms. Dumble, would you like to speak on your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report seeks approval to enter into a tenancy agreement with distinctive options for the tenanted spaces in the Brimbank Aquatic and Wellness Centre following the community engagement process. Distinctive Options is a support service for people with intellectual disability and other complex needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Humble. Any questions? Any questions? Is there a move or a motion? And Borg,
I will be more transfer this in favor.
is there a seconder? Councillor Palia. Councillor Borg, would you like to speak on the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. As a background to this report, at the council meeting on the 15th of February 2022, council received a confidential report that provided an overview of distinctive options application for tenancy at this centre. The distinctive options is a support service for people with intellectual disability and other complex needs. As no submissions were received for distinctive options tenancy, this report is seeking from council a decision to proceed with the proposal to offer distinctive options a tenancy agreement. I commend this report to council.
Thank you, Councillor Palia, would you like to speak? Thank you. Any other speakers for this motion? Now put the motion to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Moving on to 12.11, draft transport priorities paper for 2022. Mr. Neil Whiteside, would you like to present your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report provides an update to Council of the Brimbank Transport Priorities Paper. Council's Transport Priorities Paper has played an important role in Council's success in advocating for key transport projects in the municipality, with substantial investments from both the state and federal government to deliver new road, rail and active transport infrastructure within the municipality. A detailed list of key achievements achieved over the last 6 years or so is provided in attachment 1 to the report. Since the Transport Priorities Paper was last updated in 2018, a number of important strategic documents have been adopted by Council, and the COVID-19 pandemic has also resulted in significant changes to travel behaviour. Based on this, the Transport Priorities Paper has been updated so that it remains relevant and reflective of Council's current policy. The updated draft Transport Priorities Paper 2022 is an attachment 2 to the report, and it's recommended that Council consider adopting the draft and write to the relevant ministers and local members advising them of Council's updated priorities relating to transport. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. Any questions for the director? No. Okay. Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Wu.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move that as per its paper.
Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Councillor Mitchell. Thank you. Councillor Wu, would you like to speak on this motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor, the Transport Priorities Paper is Council key transport agency documents to state that the federal government will upgrade of the freeways, arterials and public transport network. These two articulation of the documents have helped to secure a substantial amount of investment to bring back transport network. This includes the removal of all passengers level crossing in the municipality by 2025, including new station networks, Jennifer and the Park. There's like 2.1 million upgrades of the Sunset line, which allow for increased capacity and frequency of train operating on this corridor. 100 million committed to upgrading Calder Freeway and preparation of business case to upgrade Calder Park Drive intersection to full Diamond Creek interchange. It also has multiple intersection upgrade as important bottlenecks in Brimbank's arterial road network Also a review and rerouting bus routes in Brimbank, potentially increase the number of people in Brimbank living near a regular bus service. The latest upgraded transport priorities paper include refresh 7 priorities project initiative, which will be identified based on significant amount of consultations with communities over the past 4 years, including building Brimbank Community Engagement Report, which was adopted by Council in 2020, in which we received over 1,400 items of feedback relating to multiple billions dollars infrastructure and planning project in the pipeline with other municipalities. Priorities outlined in the latest transport priorities paper cover all modes of transport, which include a review of McIntyre Road, Burren Road corridors to address the safety capacity concern, as well as call to resolve the challenging bottlenecks at Burren Road, Anderson Road, McIntyre Road section. It upgraded the Melbourne and Whittlesville rail corridors to accommodate dedicated metro service, which become increasingly urgent to connect the growth area in Melbourne and Whittlesville. We have Brimbank to achieve our aspiration for Sunshine to become the capital city of the West. Delivering a new interchange at delivering a new interchange at Calder Park Drive and Calder Freeway, ongoing funding to widen the freeway and ultimately reinstate 100 k's speed limits on the corridor. Finally, support more of communities to take up walking and cycling in the mode of transport by providing funding to deliver dedicated infrastructure that physically separate from other road users, including delivering dedicated active transport bridge over the Allen Road underpass, which allowed council to complete the water garden to Sunshine to car cycling corridor. But now I recommend support to council.
Thank you, Councillor. I second that Councillor Levy, did you want to speak?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Do we have councillors who would like to speak on this motion? I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Report 12.12. Draft Creating Streets for People policy. Mr. Whiteside, can you please present your report?
Of course, thank you, Madam Chair. The draft Creating Streets for People policy has been developed as a framework to provide council with a long-term vision for how Brimbank's streets could look, function and support our communities now and into the future. The livability of Brimbank suburbs is intrinsically tied to the quality of its streets. The purpose of this report is for council to consider endorsing the draft Creating Streets for People policy attached to 1 to the report for community consultation for a period of 4 weeks and invite written submissions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. Any questions for the director? No questions. Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Tarkas?
Madam Mayor, I move the motion as per business papers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkas. Is there a second up? Councillor Barrett? Madam Mayor, seconded. Councillor Tarkas, would you like to speak on the motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'd like to commend this report and congratulate Neil and his team. I think it's an excellent report and the identification, especially of hot streets, and how we need to increase the tree canopy to cool them in the next 10 years will be particularly important, as in my own ward, St Albans, which is one of the hottest suburbs in Brimbank. The key and vital link, I believe, is still requiring the greatest emphasis on streets and paths is connectivity. Brimbank has some incredible parks, incredible reserves and open spaces, but more people would rely less on cars and more on streets if they are able to access them with better connectivity. I recently visited the new Colorado Creek Shared Park, which is absolutely amazing. I feel this is this is an example of how streets and paths can be connected to promote health. I feel that this is, Brimbank, which is a very car reliant in some areas, needs better connectivity to Brimbank parks and from, say for example, for St Albans and Kiapa people who are only 100 metres away from Brimbank Park do not have connectivity and shared paths.
as someone who does a lot of walking in my own ward and much of the north, would better improve if there was more connectivity to reduce reliance on cars.
Thank you, Councillor Tokos. Madam Deputy Mayor, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to echo Councillor Takos, congratulate the Director Neil Shire and also the team have done a great report. Thank you.
Any other councillors like to speak on this motion? Yes, Councillor David. Hello.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor, you're mute, or we can't hear you actually. Councillor David?
Yes, I've got big notes here, Madam Mayor. I want to.
Please go to Councillor David's audio.
Yeah. The development of a draft CSP policy is an action in Council Plan 2021-2025 key directions, place spaces and seeks to deliver on the livable and connected neighborhood that support healthy and sustainable futures.
David,
Green
I just
place,
want to bring to your
all
attention that
objective.
no one can hear you right now. Your audio is not working. So we have an officer who's going to call you.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, I didn't get that. All right.
In the meantime, while we try to sort out Councillor David's audio, would anyone else like to speak on this motion?
Fine.
I'm sorry, Councillor David's audio.
Fine. Hello? Fine. Move my icon, Madam Mayor. Yeah.
Whether or not it's resolved.
That one.
Okay. Is the audio? Councillor David, can you hear us?
My friend just messaged me and said that they can hear them.
Oh, really? Really? Okay, so members of the public, just wanted to let you know, we are unable to hear Councillor David. So there are technical difficulties at the moment. When they're interested again.
Madam Mayor, continue without me because I can't hear you. Sorry. Continue. Thank you.
Now we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Yeah. Councillor, do you want to speak on the motion? If Councillor, you're frozen again on our Zoom. But I think I take a note about moving on. Apologies, Councillor David. Okay, so any other speakers like to speak? Are there any other speakers who would like to speak on this motion? If not, I'll now put the motion to vote. All those in favor, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Now move on to the next report. This is 12.13, the draft 10-year action plan for 2022. Mr. Whiteside, would you like to speak to your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a requirement under the Local Government Act 2020, councils are required to develop a 10-year asset plan. The draft 10-year asset plan 2022 has been developed to guide and demonstrate council's responsible and sustainable management of its public infrastructure assets and to communicate the strategies and funding required to help achieve council plan objectives and community vision statement. The purpose of this report is the council to consider endorsing the draft 10-year asset plan 2022 attachment 1 to the report for community consultation for a period of 4 weeks and invite written submissions. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Any questions for Mr. Whiteside? Any questions? Thank you, Ms. Whiteside. Is there a mover of the motion? Councillor Luke?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I'll move as a business plan.
Is there a seconder? Councillor Kerr?
I second the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Luke, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak as seconder?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors like to speak to this motion? Okay, councillors, all those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Now, we're now moving on to our contracts.
Madam Mayor, I propose that we move 12.14, 12.15, 12.16, 12.17 contracts as a block motion. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there a second for this procedural motion? Councillor Palia?
Yes, I second the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas, now confirm it's
As per business recommendations and officer recommendations. And if anyone has any questions to direct them, thank you.
yeah. Any questions, councillors? No questions. Councillor Douglas, as the mover, would you like to speak to this motion?
No, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Palia? Okay, all. Any councillors for this motion? No, okay, all those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. Moving on to notices of motion. There are 4 notices of motion for consideration. Councillors, I remind you that a notice of motion must be moved as printed in the papers, and only if seconded can the amendment be made. The first notice of motion, 13.1, is request for information on EPA licensed sites in Brimbank, and this is from Councillor Tyrus.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move the notice of motion as per shared screen.
Councillor Tyrus, is there a second for this motion? Councillor Kerr?
I second the motion as per the shared screen.
Thank you. Councillor Thomas, would you like to speak on your motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Brimbank City Council has 2 EPA licensed sites that continue to cause considerable distress to our local community. The site of Barrow Group's Calvin landfill and the Axo Nobel in North Sunshine. Local communities have been promised strong and swift action by the EPA to resolve these issues. Local communities have also been promised clear and regular dialogue by the EPA. Local communities have been promised that the EPA is doing everything it can to resolve the issues. But to date, despite all these promises, the EPA is nowhere to be found. Local communities have been let down by the EPA again. Timeframes shift, legal proceedings change, and the problems remain for our communities. The EPA's promises remain unfulfilled. Madam Mayor, I cannot tell you the distress my community is feeling at the moment in Kialba with the rising of the odours and with absolutely no communication coming from the EPA as to timeframes. They are finding everything out through the media.
My notice of motion seeks to get more information that the community deserves and should be given as a matter of course. However, the local communities feel abandoned again by the EPA as requests for information by the local community go unanswered and community meetings fall silent without the EPA there to answer questions. Now, since this writing up of this notice of motion, there has been some interest by the EPA in organising a meeting that will tackle both the Kialba landfill and Axo Nobel, which will be an interesting meeting because both are quite different, yet just as bad, you know, in terms of the suffering for our community with the odours. But the local community deserve to understand also what the State Environment Protection Authority is doing to ensure that the compliance with operating licences for these sites on Brimbank. On community's notice of motion, I just want to explain to the community that the EPA is there to protect the community and the environment. And one of their roles with the licensing is to ensure that no odour, no pollution leaves the boundaries of these two licensed companies. To date, that has not been able to be properly controlled, and I seek that in this meeting there are some assurances given to our community that this will finally be resolved with Barrow Landfill and with Axo Nobel. With Axo Nobel, I know it's been going on for over 10 years, but Barrow Landfill over 2.5 years. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. Councillor Kerr, would you like to speak a second now?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any councillors want to speak on this notice of motion? I'll put the motion to vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay, that motion carries. Moving on to notice of motion 13.2, Brimbank Park and Auburn Pipes National Park Development. Today's motion is from Councillor Tarkos.
Madam Mayor, I move the notice of motion as per shared screen.
I think yes, okay, that's right. Second that. Councillor Tarkos, would you like to speak to notice of motion?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I can't locate my notes, but I'll speak to it. Basically, for the last 2 terms that we've been elected, we have been calling for meetings with Brimbank Park and Parks Victoria board to talk about the long-term future of these 2 magnificent parks. Today, a lot of promises have been made. We've asked everything from better signage, better facilities, better amenities, activation, Indigenous education programs, management of dogs on sites, to a whole range of other things like 1,000 steps to try and promote health in these parks. These parks are unpolished gems, and we feel that we've been asking year and year again, and councillors from the previous term will remember all the meetings we've had with Parks Victoria Board. Yet there are no master plans for these two parks. Without master plans, when funding comes along, where does it go? We need this to be master planned, and we need a vision and strategic direction for both of these parks to become parks that are attractive for tourism, parks that also encourage greater activation. Many people say, we come to these parks, but there's nothing there, you know, and the facilities are really run down. I know that Auburn Pipes is an amazing site geologically, but it's very tired, and the facilities need an upgrade. So this is basically calling on that we have a strategic master plan, just like we do with our Sydenham master plan. We now have the bones where we can fund something. This needs to be done for these 2 parks. It's seriously lacking, and I urge all councillors to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tarkos. As does Councillor Rush want to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I absolutely support this motion. As a man councillor, I have advocated for this park to be maintained better and have raised the issue with the government. especially to resolve urgent maintenance and safety issues that Councillor Tarpas has mentioned. I was fortunate enough to attend the announcement of hundreds of thousands of dollars announced for upgrades to both Brimbank Park and Auburn Pipes by the state government. I look forward to seeing improvement made to those two parks in Northern Brimbank. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rocket. Is there any other councillors who want to speak to this motion? Put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We've got notice of motion 13.3, Main Road, St. Albans Road Safety. This notice of motion is from Madam Deputy Mayor Tang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to move the motion because Chair.
Stanley, is there a second for this motion? Rocket?
I'll second this motion.
Councillor Yang, would you like to speak to the next motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Even though in 2016, the dangerous and congested settlement level crossing on the main road west and east had been removed, but based on the transport accident condition statistic, there was 11 fatal accidents happened on that road since 2016. It is a dangerous and busy road. Therefore, I'm asking for the councillors support to write the letter to the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, the Honourable Ben Carroll, requesting urgent action to implement traffic management measures, including pedestrian safety measures along Main Road East and Main Road West. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Councillor Ryan Victor, would you like to speak to this motion?
Yes, thank you. I absolutely support this motion. I am all about road safety, and doesn't matter which part of Brimbank it comes to road safety. I'm, as I said, big supporter of it. I'm not cherry picking as Sarah sometimes says. I will be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rajvich. Are there other councillors who like to speak on this notice of motion? Councillor Tapas?
I congratulate Councillor Jack for forwarding this. We have also forwarded this in past years as well because of our concerns. There has been so many near misses in front of the school, of the high school. It's at peak time. It is the risk is unacceptably high, but also the strip along Safeway, the exit out of the Barony Theatre, that whole area needs to be re-looked at because the speeds that people come over the rail are extremely high for a busy business precinct when there are kids, multiple kids crossing roads, etc., and elderly. So fully support this, and let's hope it gets the prioritisation it needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Tapas. I have a councillor to speak on this motion. I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That motion carries. We now have the last notice of motion. This is 13.4, European Festival in Keilor. This notice of motion is from Councillor Kerr.
I'd like to make this motion as per the business papers, Madam Mayor.
Is there a second for this motion?
Madam Mayor, I've got an amendment as well.
So, is there a second? So, Councillor Liu? Oh, wait.
I'll be Councillor Tapas amendment.
Okay, but for there to be an amendment, there needs to be a second for this notice of motion.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so. Okay, and Councillor Tapas, what is your amendment, and do you have it in writing?
Yes,
it's on to the shared screen now, Madam Mayor. That council received a report detailing the cost to council, the amount of officer resourcing, the level of community support and contribution in order to hold a European festival in Keilor at the end of the year in partnership with local trades and associations.
Is there a second for this amendment? Councillor Rogers, sure.
I second that.
Okay, we will now debate this amendment. Yes. Okay. Councillor Thomas, as the viewer of this amendment, would you like to speak?
Yes, I think it's a good first step to ask for a report detailing the costs to council in regards to the resourcing and the level of community support. However, towards the community support aspect, I can assure you that the community in Keilor Park, Keilor, Kealba, Keilor Downs, that whole area has not had a festival. It did have a festival many years ago. However, what we've seen is with the business associations approaching us saying that there's not enough activation and support for businesses and for the cultural boom that's going out in that area. And that is, you know, from early pioneers, farmers, right through to the multicultural diversity that we have in that area. They really want to showcase that by having a festival that showcases the food. We've got a brewery, a microbrewery there. We've got a Greek specialty cake shop that is becoming amazingly famous. It's becoming a very much a food destination. So this festival is very much about celebrating that. Now, as the business associations approached myself and Maria and said, how do we go about doing something like, you know, a food festival celebrating all of this diversity? And so hence we have brought this into the chamber to say, let's have investigated what it would look like, what it would cost. Could be something small at Brimbank Park or even Lagoon Reserve or even in our shop strips, doing food tasting there and dancing and music. So that's basically.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Councillor Rogers, and second on the amendment, would you like to speak?
Well, Councillor Parker's pretty much summed it up. The only thing I'm going to say is a great idea or amendment to come with report detailing the costs, and I do support that. Thank you.
Is there any other?
We need a European festival in Keilor and Brimbank. During the successful Let's Chat Brimbank, residents overwhelmingly voiced their appetite for a diverse festival in Keilor, celebrating the rich European roots in Keilor and Brimbank. Europeans first settled in Keilor in 1803. Today, Europeans make up about 30% of the population in Brimbank. Europeans farmed the land, raised their families and built businesses. They brought diversity in culture, cuisine, art, horticulture and sport. This motion's purpose is to celebrate our diverse cultural history in Keilor and Brimbank, to showcase the diverse range of culture, folk dancing, food stalls, music, arts and crafts, sport, and to attract tourism to Brimbank. We have so many diverse cultures: Macedonian, Italian, Croatian, Greek, Maltese, Czech, Polish, Serbian, Spanish, Austrian, German, and many, many more. I'm sorry if I've missed your background. But a festival of this nature is just what the community needs to assist with this COVID recovery. We need to get back out there. And as the champion of the Proud portfolio and a member of the Western Tourism Board, it is vitally important that Council supports these events, bringing tourism and day visitors back to Brimbank. It will support small businesses. So I ask that Council support this motion with the amendment. Thank you.
Is there a councillor going to speak? Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor
Councillor Kerr to make this motion. And I totally support on the idea of having the European festival. I acknowledge the European history and the contribution of the community to Brimbank area. Completely correct. And the European culture should be celebrated every year, like other communities, like Lunar New Year Festival, Asian Festival. But I've got a question about that. In your motion, are you requesting council to do the event, the festival, or just request the council to support?
To support and to do a report.
Thank you.
We're currently debating the amendment, which is to write a report, just to remind. Okay. You may continue, Councillor. Yeah. Thank you. Who wants to speak on the amendment version? Councillor Lancashire.
Now, I have a question about this area used to have a major festival, Kill and Gift. When did that cease? Do you know why it ceased?
Is there a director that's able to answer that question?
I can answer that, Madam Mayor.
Please do.
The Kilo gift had been formally funded under the Festival and Events Grant Program. So the Kilo Sports Club has applied for that grant recently.
Recently, as many years ago, any idea generally speaking?
I think the last one was 2 years ago.
Mayor, I'd like the opportunity to speak to the motion.
Please do.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I certainly recall that for many years that the Keeler Gift was a major festival in that area. It was really great. It was a fantastic thing to happen. And it was probably unfortunate that it wound up. But it does leave a hole, I think, and in that area across the north. In terms of having some sort of festival, we've got to move with the times, and if that is in the order of a European festival to replace it, well and good. So I certainly look forward to seeing supporting this motion and seeing an office report back on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Would anyone else like to speak on this amendment? Councillor.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to say I think having festival of Brimbank with different modern culture is fantastic. The board and area, and I do support this amendment with the European festival. I do encourage the traders down Kilo and associations to get together and organise the festival. And don't wait for us to report. This is only report back to council as to the fundings as involved in the festival, not in study, but in study. Generally, council do not organise be organised off the festival, but they do support with fundings and in other ways. So I do suggest that the traders down there do get together and organise and submit application for fundings and grants.
Thank you, Councillor. Okay, Councillor Brent, would you like to speak to this amendment version?
I've got a couple of questions. For clarification, when it says hold a European festival, what role are you seeing council in that?
Just in assisting with coordinating and working with the Traders Association and providing support and just logistics on how to get it done. Advising on the appropriate grants.
Okay,
And for the directors, is that, how we usually support, what's the usual way that, festivals come about?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have a whole support program that we provide to community-based festivals. So that's training in how to plan for a festival, how to actually run the festival, all the risk management they need to undertake. We also often assist them with finding a location if they haven't got one, and that quite often is on council sites like reserves or in our facilities. So that's the practical assistance we provide to them. There is also the annual community grant program where organisations can actually apply through that grant program for financial assistance if it's really getting the grant. There's also other funding that's available not by council but by the state government. For example, there's a multicultural festivals grant program that the state government runs, so we connect them into those grant opportunities or any other grant opportunities that we're aware of, and also provide sort of practical advice on assisting them with their application as well. So our approach is around building the capacity of trade groups or local organisations to actually run their own festival. There is quite a lot of work that does require, you know, a good volunteer base to actually deliver a successful festival. So that's also some of the things that we talk to them about in the plan that they're going to undertake.
Ballpark, how much does a report cost?
I guess we haven't anything allocated, but within our council staffing resources, probably around $1,000 to $2,000 to prepare that report using our office time.
Yeah. So and is this asking for anything unusual or outside of if they just applied and this wasn't going through as a motion?
So just 1 second, we actually need to do a procedural motion to extend the meeting time.
Can I please get a remark?
30 minutes. Councillor Pilot. Is there a seconder? Councillor Wright? Okay, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Motion carries. Ladies, Councillor Red, you repeat your question again.
Yeah, is there anything in this motion that is different to the usual procedure that the community who wants to do this, that they, the way, yeah, what's the difference between this motion and the way the community would get asked for support?
So we would, in other circumstances, have a group or a community group or a trader group actually approach council to indicate they were interested in organising a festival, or they would just put a grant application through our grant program. So I guess the difference here is that we're actually preparing a report based on a specific festival. We haven't been approached by anyone for this type of festival, so we have to also obviously work with.
Well, correction, I was approached and so was Virginia.
We're approached by business associations.
During our Let's Chat Brimbank, so that's how this came about, just so.
Yeah, apologies, I mean, officers haven't been approached.
Sorry, I just had a point of order from Councillor Lancashire. Yeah, I think we just have Ms. Dumble answer the question, please.
Yeah, the council staff have not been approached around this type of festival, but often we don't know about the interest until we actually put the application, that the grant's open, and then that helps us understand who's interested in running different festivals. So that would be the way we normally understand this type of festival
mutual interest. So to do this report, we will, I guess, work with the trading group in Killaw and, go through the contacts of Councillor Tarkos and Councillor Kerr have actually had regarding this particular interest.
Can I clarify who the contacts are?
Good question.
Oh, no, it's not a question, it's a comment.
I think we're now with answering Councillor Brandon's questions.
Yeah, no, well, I was gonna answer the question and explain that there was owners of the Killaw Hotel over Newton Castle, the Traders Association, there was multiple people that approached us that day.
Business association, they've been crying out for activation for months and can't do anything.
Okay, so what I'm hearing here is they've approached the councillors, but for Ms. Dumble, the council officers are unaware of the merit. Councillor Brandon, is that satisfactory to your question?
If there are my questions, I'd like to speak as well.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead. We're still on the amendment, by the way, we're still on the amendment.
Yeah, so from my understanding, they have approached you guys not supporting what they're doing, which is bad. I am wondering why they haven't tried on their own yet. Maybe they didn't know the process
To language barriers and they just don't know the process.
Okay.
Councillor Brandon speaking.
That's an opportunity. That's an opportunity to, I suppose, give information and help them go through the normal process. Totally supportive of what's happening, but I'll go against it just on a basis of governance because I'm not. It just feels like they could have gone through the appropriate channels, etc. But it in the meeting. Thank you.
Does anyone else want to speak on this amendment motion? On the amendment motion.
I'm gonna try and speak again, but anyway.
Okay, yeah, well, as the mover of the amendment motion, you have a right to reply.
Okay, just to clarify that we are the voice of our community, and very often a lot of community find it really complicated to try and get a request through for, even basic stuff. But we've got a community in the north that did have a festival. As Councillor Lancashire pointed out, the Killaw gift hasn't happened for over 3 years. Do you know why? Because the community got really frustrated with the application process. They are all volunteers and it took them months to fulfil all the expectations for that festival. What we, both myself and Marika, are trying to shortcut that and support the community and say, yes, we can help you to facilitate something because, believe it or not, it's actually a lot of technical work and a lot of people don't have the time, they don't have the language, they don't have the resources to commit to filling out pages and pages of, traffic management plans, risk plans, you name it. I've been on this journey with my community and they've said, do we just give up and not ask anymore, or can you help us? And so they approached us during those talks, where we go out in the community and said, why can't we have something on this side of town to celebrate multiculturalism? Why is it so hard that we, and the businesses there need a lift as well. They need, some activation. They've asked me to do several they say, why are all the activations and all these entertainment things happening on the other side of Brimbank? Why are we getting neglected? So we've sat down, what do you want? We want a festival, we want to showcase everything out here so people can visit us once and hopefully come and visit us again. So that our businesses can have a lift as well. That's basically the purpose.
Okay, can I ask a question? I would like to ask a question. This is to Ms. Dumble. If we go through with this officer report, is it something that we provide to other traders and associations who are seeking to have a festival? And would this put others that are under advantage, say if they want to apply for the grants process?
Can I just clarify that question? Do you mean doing this report? Would that put an unfair advantage?
say other traders and other associations, you may apply for grant applications.
Sorry, can you repeat the question again?
The question is, if council does this officer report for the traders and association, does this put them at an unfair, does this put them at an unfair advantage to other associations who might also want to apply for the community grants?
I would say that we would write it in a general way that isn't favouring any particular group. So it will be written to have a general understanding of what that type of festival would mean, what the resourcing would be, and also to ascertain what the interest is in that local community to take, I guess, do the organising and application for such a festival. So, yeah, I guess in that way we would make sure that we weren't writing it to put a disadvantage to any group.
I think we'll now move the amended motion to vote. So please note, if this amended motion carries, it becomes a substantive motion. So, is on the screen? Yes, okay. Is David able to see it?
Let me share my screen again.
Yeah. So we're now going to vote on the amendment motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. So now that is the substantive motion. We're going to be voting that now. Okay. Now, the mover of the substantive motion, do you want to speak?
No.
Okay. Second, Councillor Blue, do you want to speak?
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, I sort of emphasise again, it's motion will pass is basically a detailed report, and I do encourage the traders and associations down there to organise and apply for grants and assistance. This is only a report to council, does not guarantee the support of being an organiser of the actual festival. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this substantive motion? I'll now put the motion for the all those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, please raise your hand. Okay. Okay. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillor Lancia, Councillor Qualia, Councillor Rashid, Councillor Dang, Councillor Liu, Councillor Kern, Councillor Tarkos, Councillor Borg. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillor Granton, Councillor Moon. Thank you. So that motion carries. Now, big one. Notices of motion rescission. There are no rescission motions. CEO. Yeah, Blair, is there any urgent business? And there is no confidential business either. Thank you all for attending and for your interest in tonight's meeting. I declare this being closed at 10:09 p.m. I instruct Channel 31 to stop live streaming this meeting. Thank you.